President Barry Jagdeo eyes more collective discussions and strategies to address challenges facing the region at the upcoming Summit of the Americas in Trinidad and Tobago.
Prime Minister Samuel Hinds says the global fall in demand for alumina is worrying since it may affect a key bauxite plant here.
And today marks 1 year since the gruesome slaughter of 12 persons in Bartica, and a number of activities have been held in observance.
The details of these and other stories, the diamond mineral water and NCN Sport News and more in tonight's news. Good evening, I'm Delicia Fletcher.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Tuesday, February 17, 2009. Here's what's happening, Paul.
Thanks, Delicia. President Barry Jagdeo says he's hoping for more collective discussions and strategies which can address challenges facing the region at the upcoming Summit of the Americas in Trinidad and Tobago. Most of the 34 democratically elected leaders of the hemisphere are expected to converge on Port of Spain for the much anticipated gathering. More in this report.
President Barry Jagdeo has expressed the hope that leaders can come up with more practical solutions to resolve challenges confronting the region at the 5th Summit of the Americas in Trinidad and Tobago. He believes that the previous summit failed to address concerns of countries like Guyana.
I hope that this time we'll have a much more amicable setting where we can focus on a set of principles that we all share. Common principles that we believe that are essential for the development of our region without the ideological branding of each other and getting into very doctrinaire approaches, so that we can have a region where different systems operate, but we are all committed to a set of principles that are universal.
Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Americas, Peter Kent, is also hoping for better outcomes which would assist small countries to cope with the impacts of the economic crisis.
All of the countries of the Americas are focused first and foremost on the international economic crisis, which will touch all of our economies and the lives of all of our citizens. And it is with that in mind that the heads of government will be looking at ways to ensure that our markets stay open, that financing is available for the countries of the region to get through this period.
CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Edwin Carrington had earlier indicated that the upcoming summit must change the relationship between CARICOM and the rest of the Western Hemisphere. The 5th Summit of the Americas will be held in Trinidad and Tobago from April 17 to 19 under the theme Securing Our Citizens' Future by Promoting Human Prosperity, Energy Security, and Environmental Sustainability. It will bring together 34 democratic leaders to share ideas and opinions on various challenges facing the hemisphere. Reporting for the 6 o'clock news, I'm Shardal Lal.
Prime Minister Samuel Hinds says the global fall in demand for alumina is worrying since it may affect a key bauxite plant here. He, however, assured residents of Berbice and workers at Rusal that government is ready to step in should the operations be affected. Edward Lane reports.
Updating the National Assembly last evening on the performance of the mining sector for 2008 and projections for this year, Prime Minister Samuel Hinds said that Rusal has had to lower this year's export targets by half because of the state of the global market. This, he says, is a worrying sign for Guyana, bearing in mind the closure of 3 of its plants in Jamaica last year. He, however, noted that based on indications, there is some hope for the local operations.
But they are continuing to supply our bauxite to the plant in Nikolaev plant in the Ukraine. And as long as that plant stays online, our hope is that our operations here in the Berbice River would also stay online.
But should there be a fall through and local operations need to be closed, the Prime Minister assures that government has a plan in place to secure workers of Rusal and residents in the Berbice River.
We are keeping it in view, and the people, our citizens in Berbice River can depend that if and when that time comes, the government would intervene to cushion and smooth their situation.
Rusal is the world's second largest producer of aluminium. These troubles may, however, put Rusal Aluminium Refinery in some trouble. Last year, the bauxite industry in the first half saw an increase in production by 22.8% over 2007, but declined in the second half, ending the year at 6.7% less than the previous year. This was attributed to the drop in global demand. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
Canada's State Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Americas, Peter Kent, is urging Guyanese to be cautious when applying for visas. He notes that the country is seeking to clamp down on corrupt immigration consultants who victimize persons seeking visas. Here's our report.
Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Americas, Peter Kent, has reiterated that immigration consultants cannot guarantee visas for persons desirous of going to Canada or any other country. He has expressed concern about persons being conned by unscrupulous elements who promise visas in return for large sums of money.
And there are those who have fallen victim to return, who have been victims of unscrupulous immigration consultants. And that's something which we're addressing with our new Immigration Act in Canada, as well as dialoguing constantly with the countries like Guyana, where there have been some unfortunate incidents.
Mr. Kent says immigration officials have been working to simplify the application process and ensure greater efficiency in the issuance of visas. He also commented on Canada's move to deport several hundred persons, including some of whom were granted refugee status.
More than 95% of those who leave Canada because of immigration issues are not of a criminal nature. They're people who, for one reason or another, found themselves without legitimate papers and are returned to Guyana.
President Bart Jagdeo had expressed surprise at Canada's actions to accept refugees from Guyana and at the same time deport persons under that status. The head of state had also voiced concern about the return of criminal deportees without any proper system in place to facilitate the reintegration process. The Canadian minister says he is willing to continue dialogue with Guyana since there are concerns and challenges on both sides. Reporting for the 6 o'clock news, I'm Shardal Lal.
Opposition leader Robert Corbyn says the 2009 national budget lacks policy direction for development in Guyana and has issued a menu of recommendations for its improvement. But these comments were not well received by government, as Labour Minister Manzoor Nadir says the estimates are prepared with the focal point being national development, a point Mr. Corbyn and the opposition has been ignoring. Here are details.
Among the list of recommendations presented by opposition leader Robert Corbyn are salary increases for public servants, the urgent need for consultations on the national budget, and relief for East Coast farmers affected by recent floods. Mr. Corbyn also called on the finance minister to rearrange his financial priorities for 2009 in light of the global crisis and make provision to assist the private sector. He is of the view that the budget in reality does not measure up to its theme, working together, reinforcing resilience.
The overall objectives of this development strategy, as stated in the document, are: 1, to attain the highest rates of economic growth that are possible; 2, to eliminate poverty in Guyana; 3, to achieve geographical unity; 4, to attain an equitable geographical distribution of economic activity; and 5, to diversify the economy.
Corbyn has also chided government for once again not providing a subvention for the Critchlow Labour College and the Guyana Trade Unions Congress. But his comments met strong opposition from Labour Minister Manzoor Nadir, who noted that recommendations were made to both the organizations to expand their operations, to which they failed to respond. Minister Nadir says with the global financial crisis, the Finance Ministry managed to put together a budget that still places strong focus on development.
Which budget, sir, continues to provide the stimuli for the economy of our country and for the uplifting of the lives of all of our people.
The debate on the $128.7 billion 2009 budget continues in the Parliament. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.